Sharif Hamad. Zanzibar, an idyllic archipelago with a turbulent history, has been a place of political interest for centuries. Consisting of Unguja, Pemba, and other smaller islands, Zanzibar was for many years shaped by the monsoon winds. As an important center for trade, the Sultanate of Oman gained control of Zanzibar from the Portuguese in the late 17th century and announced Zanzibar its capital. In 1861, the archipelago became an independent sultanate separate from Oman and continued with a lively trade in ivory, spices, and slaves. Less than 30 years later, Zanzibar was proclaimed a British protectorate and the Sultan's authority was considerably reduced. Soon after, in 1898, the Anglo-Zanzibar War ensued as a result of conflict between Zanzibar and Great Britain over the new Sultan. This has been proven to have been the shortest war in world history, lasting only 38 minutes. Zanzibar was granted independence from Britain on the 10th of December 1963, and the first constitution of independent Zanzibar was announced. On the 16th of December 1963, Zanzibar was accepted as a member of the United Nations. A month later, moderate Afro-Shirazi party leader Abeid Aman Karume came to power via a bloody revolution against the Isles Omani rulers, during which thousands of Arabs were killed. As the mainland, Tanganyika, received independence in 1961, a treaty was signed in April 1964 between the People's Republic of Zanzibar and the Republic of Tanganyika to establish what is now the United Republic of Tanzania. The new country would allow for Zanzibar to be semi-autonomous, with its own government and president. Chama cha Mapinduzi was created on February 5, 1977, under the leadership of the father of the nation, Maalim Julius Kambarage Nyerere. As the merger of the Tanganyika African National Union, TANU, the then ruling party in Tanganyika, and the Afro-Shirazi Party, ASP, the then ruling party in Zanzibar. However, there was discontent amongst Zanzibaris, particularly from Pemba, on power sharing between the mainland and the Isles. Due to continuing disagreements within the party, the Kizota Conference in Dodoma expelled the powerful Zanzibari politicians from the ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi, among them Seif Sharif Hamad. This expulsion led to the formation of the Civic United Front, CUF, as the opposition party, with maalim Seif Sharif Hamad as the leader.
On the 22nd October 1943, I was born in a village known as Nyali. As a child, I used to go to the sea for fishing, but also I was studying in Wete. So you had to cross the sea, the creek, every morning, and in the afternoon coming back. And you know, we were using canoes there. So sometimes I'll do it myself, sometimes I'll go as a passenger. It was a very, very good life. I came to Unguja in 1958. I came there purposely because I had already passed my exams, and in Pemba there was no secondary school, so I came here for the purpose of studying. We were studying in government boys secondary school. At that time, you find the school was well equipped, and the teachers were very good. We had a very, very good quality education. I finished my secondary education in 1961. I was considering of joining the police because we were told that When you joined the police at that time, and when you had finished the 6 months training, you started to be inspector of police. It was very much attractive. But then I said I opted it out. So 62 and 63, I was in Form 5 and 6. I went on my holidays to Pemba, but in January, the government, after the revolution, you find all the colonial civil servants were required by the government to pack and go. So there were a lot of vacancies left open. The new revolutionary government asked us, the young people who had finished our high-level education, to step in their shoes. And I was selected to teach. It was not my choice to go into teaching, but because I realized that the country needed our service. In 1965, 64, I applied for scholarship to a number of universities, including Makerere University. I got all the admission, but when I asked the government, they said, wait, you see, because we need you still to stay here. It was only after Mr. Jumbe came to power that he said that we need people to go and study. That was in 1972, and that was the time I was released to go for university education. When I came back in 1975, I was again posted at Nkrumah College, which is a teacher training college. But I didn't stay long there, because after 1 or 2 weeks, I was informed that the president, who was at that time visiting Tanga, wanted to see me. And there I met President Jumbe, and he just told me that from now I was working in his office as his special assistant. After the merger of the two parties in February 5th, 1977, on the 28th of the same month, President Jumbe had a reshuffle of his government. When the president came, he just said that I have decided to reshuffle the government, and he began to announce the names of the new ministers, and I had myself being announced as the Minister of Education. So that is how it happened. There was no prior consultation, just it was announced in the... Before I was appointed as the Chief Minister, in the party elections of 1982, two groups emerged from Zanzibar in the party. One was known as the Liberators, that was the old guards. And the new thugs, they were calling themselves the frontliners. So there was stiff competition between these two groups in the party election. Maalim retired in 1985. The party nominated Mzee Mwinyi to become the candidate for the union presidency. In Zanzibar, his place was to be filled either by the late Idris Abdul Wakil or myself. Mzee Idris was elected as the candidate. But it seems that Zanzibaris were not happy. I was again reappointed by Mzee Idris as chief minister. 1987, there was another election, party election. Again, there was stiff competition. And this time they succeeded in removing a lot of the frontliners from NEC, National Executive Committee. Myself, I managed just to go through, but I was not elected to the Central Committee. In 1988, again, he had a reshuffle and I was dropped out. People were not very happy here. There were a lot of problems, a lot of people protesting. were some people within the party who said that they should expel us from the party. And exactly that's the time when CCM began to lose popularity in Zanzibar. Maalim Nyerere, as a party chairman, when he was asked, why have you expelled these 7 people? His reply was that these were opposing the party within the party. So have we decided that to expel them so as to give them chance to oppose the party from outside. Actually, after being expelled as a chief minister, I had a visit in Pemba, and I was visiting a lot of villages, and people would gather in group numbers to welcome me. This did not please the authorities. So they wanted to arrest me in Pemba, but they said that if they arrested me in Pemba, then there would be a lot of trouble. So after my visit, I came to Unguja, and on the same day in the afternoon, police officers arrived in my house with the arrest warrant together with a search warrant, and they said that they wanted to search my house. I was sent to Madema police station, and the court had been instructed to deny me bail. So I was sent to remand prison. After every 2 weeks, I was sent back to court, and after every 2 weeks, the court said that investigations were still going on. Instead of being prosecuted on the basis that I had conducted illegal meeting, and this is just an offense which is bailable. So they decided to change that offense, and says that I have been found with secret government papers. And if a person who is accused of that offense, if he is found guilty, then the court could send him to prison for at least 25 years. And it was not a bailable offense.
Kipindi ambacho Maalim Seif alipotiwa hatiani alipokuwa chuo cha mafunzo, nilipata matatizo mengi sana, na hasa ukilinganisha kwamba nilikuwa na familia. Nilikuwa na matatizo makubwa ya hata chakula, nilikuwa nategemea misaada kwa majirani, kwa wanachama wetu wa CAF, ndio walikuwa wanakuja wananipa misaada. Tunapata harassments za mara kwa mara kutokana na askari, kusachiwa, kuchukuliwa polisi, nikahojiwa masuala mbalimbali.
Politics is very hectic, and for me, sometimes I've been traveling too much. At one time when I was in the CCM, I was very much spending most time in the mainland, and sometimes traveling abroad. And as you know, later on, some problems, I was jailed. So all this time, you find it was my wife who was really taking care of the kids, really. So I have to thank, I have no words to thank her for this, the responsibility she carried at that time, and she persevered all the difficulties we had, and she never complained with all the problems we had. All the ups and downs went together and always was with me. So really, she deserves credit for her passions, for her commitment, for her support to me. She never said that you have to leave this politics. This is something which is not good for us. Very strong, our family never complained that wherever you go, we shall be together. So
I first met him when he was imprisoned. I used to always sneak out from school and go to the courts actually to listen or to hear the court proceedings of his case. And then, but the first encounter in which we talked was on 21st of November 1991, the day he was released from the detention, and I went to greet him at his residence at Mtoni, and there I had a chance of talking to him.
And there was a lot of international pressure, really, from Amnesty International, from development partners, from human rights organizations in the United States, because I was considered as a prisoner of conscience. When I was in jail, I had access to my colleagues. We were communicating, of course. There were certain prison wardens who were helping us to send messages to one another. They had decided to form an organization to demand multi-party democracy in Zanzibar. It was an underground organization. It was not a legal one, but it had a lot of support. When I came out of jail, of course, I found Kamahoro was there, but one of the conditions which was given to me on my release was that I was not allowed to meet more than 2-3 persons at a time. I was not allowed to go outside Zanzibar town without the permission of the High Court of Zanzibar.
Tunampenda vitendo vyake vya kazi, anatenda kazi ya uhakika.
The Kamahoro group had already decided that we form a party. And in fact wanted to call it ZUF, Zanzibar United Front. But because of this condition that the party should be national in the sense that it should have followers in the mainland here, we decided to approach other groups in the mainland. After our discussions, Mapalala showed an interest to join hands with us so as to form one party. So we combined to have the Civic United Front, CUF. That is how it was formed.
Zanzibar's very first multi-party elections were held on the 25th of October 1995, after which the highly anticipated announcement of the presidential results was delayed for a whole 4 days. CUF claimed victory until the Zanzibar Electoral Commission, ZEC, announced that it was in fact the CCM candidate that had won the elections by as little as 0.4%. Observers, both local and international, felt that the elections had been neither free nor fair, and as a result, CUF refused to accept the outcome or recognize the president and the government, and serious political tension between the two parties began. 5 years later, in 2000, the polls were opened for presidential elections once again. They were chaotic and disorganized, as they would continue to be in 2005. Many polling stations opened as late as midday, owing to an absence of ballot papers. The counting caused huge controversy, as Zanzibar Electoral Commission instructed all polling stations to interrupt the process and nullified the results in 16 constituencies in the urban west region of Unguja. These constituencies comprise 42% of voters who were instructed to vote again a week later. Despite the elections being riddled with claims of vote rigging, street protests, police violence, killings and arrests, Amani Abeid Karume of CCM, son of the first president of Zanzibar, won the presidency with 63% of the vote compared to CUF candidate Seif Sharif Ahmad's 37%. Many CAF supporters fled the country as refugees and sought safety abroad, not least in Mombasa. Another 5 years on, the 2005 multi-party elections were fraught with even more serious irregularities, from voter registration to vote collection. The results sent shockwaves through Zanzibar. The vote results came out completely different from the figures tallied by the opposition poll agents. Security forces engaged in a campaign of intimidation, subjecting CAF supporters to undue brutality. They used tear gas and water cannons to disperse unhappy CAF supporters and put them under siege around the confines of the CAF headquarters. The siege left the supporters, who are fasting the last days of the holy month of Ramadan, with little food and drink options to break their fast with. The siege was only ended after intervention by the United Nations. Results announced by the Zanzibar Electoral Commission, now widely believed to be partisan, confirmed that CCM candidate Amani Abeid Karume was re-elected with 53% of the votes. Opposition candidate Seif Sharif Hamad from CAF received 46%. On the 9th of July 2010, the CCM Central Committee met in Dodoma to select the successor of the party and Zanzibar presidential candidate. The ruling party's National Executive Committee, NEC, nominated 62-year-old Dr. Shein, who has been the second in command in the union government for nearly 10 years, to be the CCM flag bearer in the race and the candidate to compete against the popular Seif Sharif Hamad of CAF.
We have had a referendum in which the majority of the people have approved the proposal to establish a government of national unity. In other words, actually we have a power sharing system, doing away with the winner-takes-all system that used to exist here. This agreement came into being following the historic handshake that took place on the 5th of November at the Zanzibar State House. 5th of November 2009 at the Zanzibar State House between the President of Zanzibar, His Excellency Dr. Amani Karume, and maalim himself. And it was his willingness to compromise, willingness despite CAF's beliefs about the past elections to recognize the government of Dr. Amani Karume and to recognize him as the legitimate president of Zanzibar, that finally led to this major breakthrough in Zanzibar politics.
Under the proposed structure of a government of national unity that was to be formed if a ruling system candidate was to win the presidency, CAF's Seif Sharif Hamad would become first vice president, or vice versa. This agreement was expected to bring about violence-free elections this time around, as both parties have now come to a mutual understanding.
Kwa kweli sisi tunatoka mbali. Kutokana na mambo ya kura ilikuwa siku zote vipigo tu, kila siku kipigo tu, lakini sasa ilipokuja hii kura maoni, mambo mengi yamepungua. Alhamdulillah, tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu katuletea neema kubwa.
Ramadan, the holy month and the fourth pillar of Islam, is a month-long period in the Islamic calendar during which Muslims are required to fast from dawn to dusk. It's a time when friends, families, and communities come together in breaking their fasts with the evening meal of iftar, or futari, as it is called in Kiswahili. Foods traditionally served after Maghrib or sunset vary across the world. But in Zanzibar, these are typically dates, cassava with fish, bananas in coconut, chapati, spiced beans, and other delicious foods.
Kama unavyoona tumekuwa na futari nzuri, chakula alhamdulillah, tunashukuru waliokitayarisha na mwenyewe alitualika, lakini zaidi ya chakula ule mkusanyiko wa watu. Tuna nafasi ya kukutana, mkajuana, mkaulizana, mkaarifiana. Kwa hivyo mnazidi kujenga ule udugu mlio nao na mapenzi baina yenu.
Alhamdulillah.
Sasa kuhusu habari ya zao la karafuu, kutokana na bei hairidhishi ndogo, kutokana na hali ya kimaisha tulionayo sasa. Kwa sababu sasa karafuu ukiona bei hii na mazao yote ya chakula bei juu, mashamba yanataka kulimiwa, mchumaji wa karafuu anataka naye bei juu, anisaidie kibei ya karafuu na wataalamu wa kupanda mikarafuu.
It is our policy, once we come into government, that we should ensure that people will be free to sell their clothes at the time they want, and they will sell it anywhere they want, that's themselves. So now you find it is only ZSTC which has a monopoly to control this trade.
On the last day of the election campaign, Seif Sharif Hamad prepared himself in the comfort of his home with his family. After sitting down to breakfast together in the morning, the family prepared for the final rally. Everyone in their best clothes, and the children painted with blue, white and red colors of CAF.
Leo ni siku ya mwisho ya kufunga kampeni zetu, na tunashukuru uko nyuma kote tumefanikiwa, tumepata wanachama wengi sana kuingia katika CAF, na tunategemea ushindi mkubwa ambao ni ushindi wa kura, si ushindi wa vishindo kama wenzetu wa CCM wanavyodai.
Kwanza tuwakupa pongezi rais wetu mtarajiwa Seif Sharif mchapakazi.
The rally was held in the Maisara grounds, with a huge crowd gathering to see their leader speak before the votes were cast.
Kwa hivyo nasema tunashukuru sana kwa jinsi mlivyotuunga mkono katika kampeni zetu hizi zote kabisa. Muko tayari kwa uchaguzi?
Returning home after the rally, Seif Sharif Hamad was greeted by even more supporters who had followed him home and addressed the crowd once more outside his home. On the same afternoon of the final day of campaigning, CCM candidate Dr. Shane also held a rally for the CCM supporters. Thousands of people turned out to receive him and to hear him speak. The election campaigning was finally finished. Both candidates had done all they could to garner the people's votes. The next day would bring a new dawn, and a new chapter in Zanzibar's history would begin. On the 31st of October 2010, Zanzibar polling stations opened early morning amidst heavy rainfall. The first voter was President Amani Abeid Karume, coming out to vote despite the terrible weather conditions. Seif Sharif Hamad voted at the Mtoni constituency, while his competitor Dr. Shane was casting his vote on the mainland in Dar es Salaam. Voting continued until late afternoon, when all voting stations closed down at 4 p.m. After the people had voted, the CAF supporters of Stone Town gathered at Joe's Corner around a single television box, eyes glued on a cable television channel which was showing live broadcasts of the vote counting from the polling stations. As night fell, people returned to their homes, patiently waiting for the next day when the results would be announced. On the 2nd of November, hundreds of CAF supporters gathered outside the main gate of Result Center, protesting
na hapa hatuondoki mpaka kieleweke. Tujue moja tutalala hapa maana kila siku wanatudanganya. Turudi majumbani mwetu, baadaye hakuna kinachofanyika. Leo hapa hatuondoki mpaka tujue Maalim Seif katangaziwa. Si hatumjui Sheni na mjua Maalim Seif.
Every few hours, a brief press conference was held to announce results from the 50 constituencies of Zanzibar. People were singing, some taunting the forces of law and order, some were praying, and others even fainted from sheer exhaustion. Seif Sharif Hamad was finally asked to come out to address his supporters and urge them to wait for the results in their homes.
Tunawaombeni. Ujumbe umefika, unashughulikiwa. Sote sasa hivi turudi nyumbani. Kusikiliza maelekezo ya rais wenu. Sawa sawa? Kama hamtaki kusikiliza maelekezo ya rais wenu, basi mimi si rais wenu. Sawa sawa?
Finally, around 8:30 p.m., the presidential results were released.
Mheshimiwa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein wa CCM 179,809 sawa na 50.1. Mheshimiwa Seif Sharif Hamad wa CUF 176,338 sawa na 49.1. Natamka na kumtangaza rasmi Mheshimiwa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein wa Chama cha Mapinduzi kuwa amechaguliwa kihalali na wananchi wa Zanzibar kuwa rais wa Zanzibar na mwenyekiti wa Baraza la Mapinduzi.
Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, kwanza sina budi nimshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kutujalia tukaweza kufanya uchaguzi katika nchi yetu salama usalimini. Na kwanza nishukuru tume ya uchaguzi kwa kuweza kutuandalia uchaguzi, na ni uchaguzi ambao kwa kiwango kikubwa ulikuwa ni afadhali kuliko chaguzi nyingine zilizopita. Tunawapongezeni kwa hilo tume ya uchaguzi. Lakini papo hapo niseme kwamba kulikuweko na dosari ambazo zinahitaji kurekebishwa. nichukue nafasi hii kwa niaba ya wagombea wenzangu kumpongeza kwa dhati kabisa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein.
Nataka nichukue nafasi hii kwa dhati kabisa nimshukuru Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad kwa hotuba yake fupi lakini nzito iliyojaa hekima na busara kubwa sana. Amenitia moyo sana katika kuja kuitumikia Zanzibar. Maelezo ya hotuba yake ni changamoto kwangu mimi na Wazanzibari wote.
On the 3rd of November 2010, Dr. Shein was sworn in as the 7th president of Zanzibar at Amani Stadium. Then the ground was filled with thousands of supporters from both parties of CCM and CUF. A memorable day for the island people to be able to celebrate together on the same grounds and forget about their political differences. A good sign that peace had finally returned to Zanzibar.
Mimi Seif Sharif Hamad.
A couple of days later, on the 9th of November, Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad was sworn in as the first vice president in the new Government of National Unity of Zanzibar. This was a historic moment in Zanzibar's history. The first opposition leader to be elected as vice president, and the two main political parties finally working together for the people of Zanzibar. Now Seif Sharif Hamad continues as Vice President of Zanzibar, back in government after 22 years of political struggle. This election has been one of extreme importance to the Zanzibari people. Every few hours, a brief press conference was held to announce results from the 50 constituencies of Zanzibar. People were singing, some taunting the forces of law and order, some were praying, and others even fainted from sheer exhaustion. Seif Sharif Hamad was finally asked to come out to address his supporters and urge them to wait for the results in their homes.
Tunawaombeni. Ujumbe umefika, unashughulikiwa. Sote sasa hivi turudi nyumbani. Kama hamtaki kusikiliza maelekezo ya rais wenu, sawa sawa. Kama hamtaki kusikiliza maelekezo ya rais wenu, basi mimi si rais wenu, sawa sawa.
Finally, around 8:30 p.m., the presidential results were released.
Mheshimiwa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein wa CCM 179,809 sawa na 50.1. Mheshimiwa Seif Sharif Hamad wa CUF 176,338 sawa na 49.1. Natamka na kumtangaza rasmi Mheshimiwa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein wa Chama cha Mapinduzi kuwa amechaguliwa kihalali na wananchi wa Zanzibar kuwa rais wa Zanzibar na mwenyekiti wa Baraza la Mapinduzi.
Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, kwanza sina budi nimshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kutujalia tukaweza kufanya uchaguzi katika nchi yetu salama usalimini. Na kwanza nishukuru tume ya uchaguzi kwa kuweza kutuandalia uchaguzi, na ni uchaguzi ambao kwa kiwango kikubwa ulikuwa ni afadhali kuliko chaguzi nyingine zilizopita. Tunawapongezeni kwa hilo tume ya uchaguzi. Lakini papo hapo niseme kwamba kulikuweko na dosari ambazo zinahitaji kurekebishwa. Nichukue nafasi hii kwa niaba ya wagombea wenzangu kumpongeza kwa dhati kabisa Dr. Ali Mohamed Shein.
Nataka nichukue nafasi hii kwa dhati kabisa nimshukuru Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad kwa hotuba yake fupi lakini nzito iliyojaa hekima na busara kubwa sana. Amenitia moyo sana katika kuja kuitumikia Zanzibar. Maelezo ya hotuba yake ni changamoto kwangu mimi na Wazanzibari wote.
On the 3rd of November 2010, Dr. Shein was sworn in as the 7th president of Zanzibar at Amani Stadium. Then the ground was filled with thousands of supporters from both parties of CCM and CUF. A memorable day for the island people to be able to celebrate together on the same grounds and forget about their political differences. A good sign that peace had finally returned. to Zanzibar.
Mimi Seif Sharif Hamad.
A couple of days later, on the 9th of November, Maalim Seif Sharif Hamad was sworn in as the first vice president in the new Government of National Unity of Zanzibar. This was a historic moment in Zanzibar's history, the first opposition leader to be elected as vice president, and the two main Now Seif Sharif Hamad continues as Vice President of Zanzibar, back in government after 22 years of political struggle. This election has been one of extreme importance to the Zanzibari people and Zanzibar's history, as both parties are now working together in a government of national unity, bringing peace to the islands. The magnanimous manner in which the result for the Zanzibar presidency was accepted after a fraught wait and a narrow margin of victory is cause for celebration, and there are high hopes of this strong CCM and CAF partnership continuing into the future.
The credit really should go to the people of Zanzibar, who have they tried to respond to our call that we should be peaceful elections, and they did that. And you find in the end, we think that the formation of Government of National Unity opens a new era in Zanzibar, whereby we have cooperation from everybody. Where there was hate, now there is love. So you find, I think the people of Zanzibar are very much in need for this. And we should work together. People who know that they have expectations, but also they should know that the task of the government is daunting, really. So they should be patient. They should not expect that things will change in a day. I'm telling people that Rome was not built in a day.